Hi, and welcome back to This Week in Voice, Season 9, Episode 4. My name is Bradley Metrock. I'm CEO of Project Voice, General Partner of Project Voice Capital Partners, and thrilled to have a fantastic show for you today. A lot of news. That's not a surprise to anybody, and we'll dive into three of the bigger stories from a very busy week with an excellent panel. And Emily, I'm going to start with you. Take a moment, tell us who you are, share with us who you're with.
Hey, I'm Emily Lewis. I come irrespective of my employer today. I'm coming on my own volition, so representing myself today. But yeah, I have a background in the pharmaceutical industry and drug development, but particularly in beyond the pill measures. So looking to develop digital biomarkers of disease, as well as develop software as a medical device. I'm just generally looking for ways that we can utilize digital to, ensure that medicine, or the way we do medicine in the future, is more wrapped around the patient and is more patient-centric. So, I'm not a technocrat. I don't believe that technology should be used for every need, but I do believe that there's a lot of potential there. So certainly very interested in AI and ways in which we can leverage big data to learn more about patients and be more targeted with the way we develop therapies for them.
We're honored to have you. You've had a fantastic career. Appreciate you joining us. Next up, we have Ankush. Ankush, tell us who you are and tell us who you're with.
Hey, thank you, Bradley, for having me here. I'm founder, CEO of Gen AI-powered conversational AI platform, CoRover.ai. We got more than 1 billion users who have used the virtual assistants created using our platform. So our platform helps create virtual assistants, chat bots, voice bots, and video bots. So when I say video bots, so creating interactive digital twins. We work with large enterprises in India, like Indian Railways, Mahindra, Ministry of Defense, and many more. So looking forward to this exciting interaction with you, Bradley. And
we're glad to have you. Yeah, y'all are doing some exciting stuff. So Ankush, thank you for being here as well. So with that, we're going to get right on into the news, and I'm going to read this headline from The Guardian. ChatGPT update will give it a voice and allow users to interact using images. So this has been the talk of this week for sure, within the conversational AI space, well beyond that space, but certainly within it. And Emily, I'm going to start with you. I want to get your reaction to this. More broadly, share with me your thoughts on ChatGPT. Have you used it? To what extent have you used it? Where have you found it useful? And then this latest news, your response, what stood out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a power user of ChatGPT 4. So I use it as a co-pilot in my everyday life, whether it's at work or outside of work in my personal life. So at work, helping to draft emails, helping to brainstorm ideas, just really thinking through ways that I can work better and more efficiently. And then in my personal life, it's, I have these 3 things in the refrigerator help me put together a recipe for tonight's dinner. And so I have both the app on my phone. That's probably the way I use it the most, but also on my laptop. But yeah, I'm constantly putting in, what's an idea for a party this weekend where I can, I'm having the girls come over for a charcuterie board party. What are the popular, or even just like Halloween costumes, or, it's just simple things in everyday life. So I'm absolutely a believer that AI can be a co-pilot for one's everyday life, and it can just simplify things. It can relieve some of the burden, the everyday burden of just trying to think through tasks. So just kind of reducing the load, the mental load is something that I'm definitely a proponent of. So yeah, definitely a power user. And in terms of my thoughts on this headline, I definitely see a shift in, data becoming more multimodal. So the idea that, we can now share different types of data with these chatbots is amazing, because you can actually better fine tune the prompt engineering. So you can actually get to what you're trying to say maybe a little more easily by sharing a photo, or maybe there's something in one's voice that the bot can pick up that maybe it wouldn't be able to pick up from just text. So just the dimensionality of the data that you put into these is now getting greater, and that nuance is then picked up, which also means it can pick up bias and all those other things as well. But it will just allow a higher dimensionality of the prompt engineering, which will give you better responses, right? And it's also making it more human. So I'm always in favor of how can we make AI more empathetic and allow us to connect better as humans.
This is a true story. So yesterday evening, I had a worksheet. So my wife and I have a 11, soon to be 12-year-old son, and I wanted him to learn some geometry because he's working on that in his class. So I created a worksheet. I went on Google, searched for how to create a math worksheet, found this thing, created the worksheet. He did it. Story not over, because when I went to LinkedIn later that evening, I saw some random person post ChatGPT receiving an image of a math worksheet almost identical to the one, like using the same source creator that I found online. No words. They just uploaded the image of the math worksheet with 9 questions in a 3x3 grid. And ChatGPT's response was, "Oh, yes, let's do some," this is verbatim. "Oh, yes, let's do some math questions." And it said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with just the answer for all of them. And the person's comment was, "People will never do homework again." And I thought that was crazy, because I had not yet seen the images in action. I just simply read the headline of this, and I hadn't seen it. So it really struck me pretty hard. But your comments are well taken, because people are finding all sorts of ways for it to plug into their life. And I love the word co-pilot.
Absolutely. We're going to have to adapt to this new era we're in. And we're already seeing teachers do that, right? The teachers that are embracing this and incorporating, ChatGPT and other AI, systems into their lesson plans are the ones that are going to have students that are ahead of the game. This is not going away. Kids are going to use this, regardless. And so we just need to figure out a way that we can still challenge kids using these tools rather than try to ignore them or ban them. I don't think that's the right approach, but that's certainly my personal opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own.
Perfect. Yeah. Well said. And Ankush, I'm going to ask you the same thing. Your thoughts on ChatGPT, if you want to share them from a broad point of view, but specifically your thoughts on this article and what stood out.
Sure. First of all, I think it's my first interaction with you on ChatGPT. Of course, ChatGPT has disrupted this AI field, and yes, so a lot of research was already happening in Gen AI, but these guys have really walked the talk and really made something which everyone can use, right? So people can claim, hey, I was working on this long back and my research paper is written, way before that. But right, so making it applicable and everyone could use, really a great job done by ChatGPT. But now on the usage part of it, of course, I think a couple of things which are, I think, important is the context and accurate responses, and should be grounded responses, and should be kind of responsible. I think since it's new, everyone, whether it's a policymaker or the technologists and the citizens, bring kind of putting together, they're creating the safety net and guardrails. I think things would improve. But on specifically as on the voice, of course, as Emily said about human-centric part of it, of course. So if you see our tagline, it's CoRover, it's a human-centric conversational AI platform. See, we are not robots, right? We want to talk to real people. All right, given a choice, given an option, I would love to meet Bradley and all of you in person. If not, okay, let's do video call. If not, let's do at least a voice call. Chat, I don't know when did we pick this up, right? So that was not humane, right? So I know the few countries in Asia, they're too much on the chat, and now is it human? Probably not. So we I probably have picked up a wrong habit. Yeah, so voice is of course welcome, and now on top of it, image. I'm not sure how the image would be added. Do we have to upload it, or it will take the real feed? If it's a real feed, that's going to be awesome. You see 4 people sitting in a conversation and see, hey, one expert advice and listening and watching all of us and getting the expert voice. I think it's really going to be good tool. But again, how to use it, when to use it, we'll have to adopt, we'll have to change so many things, right? So instead of banning things, I think Emily also mentioned that we need to see how do we use it and give the real challenges. Maybe we are short of giving the real challenges and we're saying, hey, don't use the existing tools. But I think it's more on the teachers probably, and more on the elders and probably experts to come up with the advanced problems, given that they know the students are going to use these kind of tools, and see Copilot, use it and apply your brain and create something probably new. I think it's a big challenge for the society to really upgrade the standards, right? We have to upgrade the standards. So earlier, I think the blue collar folks have got challenged, and right, they were in worry. So when the industrial age happened, right, the monotonous work was getting replaced by the machines, mechanical machines. But now the white collar people, right, now they are getting challenged, right? So few people were thinking, hey, they have studied this, they know this, and they are the smartest people on the earth. But now that's going away, right? So now we have to be a little more smarter to really and improve, I think, society and solve more societal problems than just knowing few things and just trying to answer few things. I think now we have more tools to solve the problems, even which we were accepted the problems and we were ready to live up with them. So maybe we have to improve and increase our horizons to even think of the problems which we had accepted and try to solve with the new tools, including ChatGPT.
Well, hopefully it leads us that direction. But from an industry point of view, I certainly share the thought of embracing it. And I think that it's worth pointing out that if you went back four is a good number, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was this hard line drawn among businesses doing work within conversational AI, language-based AI, whatever you want to call it, voice, text, chat, to where, I had interactions where, talking about our conference or talking about this, whatever, people would make a distinction between voice AI and conversational AI. In other words, meaning chatbots and like the written word. And that never made sense to me. And now, vindication is not a accurate word at all, but it may be something less than that. I feel like the market is moving decidedly toward the direction that demonstrates to all these participating companies, look, you don't just get to do voice, or you don't just get to have a chatbot. You're either going to play in all of it or do nothing. And with OpenAI OpenAI with this story here, I think has put an exclamation point on that, saying, hey, you got to be multidimensional, as Emily said, multimodal in what you're bringing to the table, or else you're just not going to be competitive. that brings me to the next story, and I'm going to go in the same order we went for this one, and then I'll reverse it for the final story. But we're going to stay on ChatGPT for one more moment here, and I'm going to read this headline. This is from Popular Science. The CIA is building its version of ChatGPT, and I'll read the subhead. The agency's first chief technology officer confirms a chatbot based on open source intelligence will soon be available to its analysts. So, Emily, I want to start with you, disregarding for a moment whatever the phrase open source intelligence means. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. First of all, just broadly, how does the article strike you? What stood out? But also, the new, how did the news strike you and what stood out? But also the fact that you're within the healthcare pharmaceutical realm, and that's where you've operated. Historically, that's been an area that's been slower to adopt this sort of thing. And with this story sort of representing, if our government's doing it, anybody can do it. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well on, do you think healthcare is ready to fully adopt this the way it should?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Bradley. Yeah, I mean, my first reaction when I saw the article was great. I'm so glad the government is, I remember, I guess it was within the last few weeks, Biden called a bunch of the heads of OpenAI, Anthropic, all the big AI companies, and had a huddle and basically said, like, teach us. We need to, I mean, clearly, we need to work on regulatory parameters around this, but like, first we need to learn about what we need to regulate, right? And so the fact that the government wants to get their hands dirty on this and do it, and I feel like doing and experiencing is the best way of learning, then I'm thrilled that the government is, especially the CIA. I mean, just thinking through what these systems are, there are ways for you to parse and find information quickly, and that's exactly what our government and the CIA needs to be doing. And so the more they learn about this technology and are experts on it, the best they can regulate it and ensure that we're well poised as a country to be competitive against other countries in the AI race.
It's interesting, because if you went back 10 to 15 years, 20 years, and you showed people this headline, CIA is going to use AI, is going to create their own version of AI, it'd probably be a very different response, and a very negative and cynical response. And in fact, I'm sure that's a response that a lot of people have today. But it's interesting that a lot of people share your point of view as well, that, hey, let's not convict yet, let's give them a chance, to see what they do with it. I like that. Ankush, I'm going to ask you the same question or similar. So, and Ankush, are you based in the US or based in India?
I'm in India right now. I keep traveling to the US, but now, yeah.
Perfect. So from your point of view, if you found out that the Indian government was creating its own version of ChatGPT or another AI sort of framework, from an intelligence point of view, your response would be what?
Yeah, so I think if that's the case, most probably we will be part of it. And in some cases, we are part of it. Overall, instead of being specific, but I think it's a good move, right? I think it's not about inventing a technology. I think, as my view, it's about doing the subset of it, right? It's more of, see, generative AI. So a lot of algorithms are open source. In fact, if you talk about OpenAI, the ChatGPT-1, ChatGPT-2 are open source, and there are a lot other open source models as well, even before ChatGPT. I think when agencies announce this and the government, maybe if it's about sovereign Gen AI or maybe the intelligence related Gen AI, I think people, when they think about it, they think about doing the Gen AI on a data which is from that particular agency or that subset. to get grounded answer. There are a lot of companies who are trying to give the grounded answer, but they're not very successful. I'll give you an example. I used someone's tech on Gen AI, and they claim, hey, they give the grounded answer, means you add your documents and you ask a question, and answer would come from your documents. And I get the answer which is not in the document. That document was, say, about one act which is in India, and then I asked, hey, what's a maximum penalty in this act? And I get an answer, and that was Indian context, and I get an answer in the US. The maximum penalty for overspeeding is this, and which was nowhere in the document. Because any Gen AI, when we create, we build, usually companies build on foundation models, right? So there is an influence of the base data which has been used to create the application. But I think when agencies like CIA, they're trying to do it, it's not like they want to, probably, that's my view, they don't want to compete with the tech world. They just want to have the right answers to their context, to their data, and so that they are responsible, accurate, and grounded in the responses they get, and to get the patterns. And I think they want to feed a lot of data, and they might not be ready, and they should not give the data to any publicly available Gen AI tool, right? So they feed in the data, so they get the right response and maybe the predictions, and they have to feed very probably confidential data. I think these probably would be the few reasons where the agencies try to create, and in India also the government has announced, and yeah, you'll hear more about it soon. But I think it's a right step.
It is interesting, isn't it, that in the case here in the United States, the CIA, the story is not that the CIA is working with OpenAI and Microsoft to create their own version of ChatGPT, or not working with Google to create competitor, or not working with somebody else. No, they're doing it themselves. So I think that to me is an interesting sort of note, with this story, that I mean, I think there's multiple different interpretations of that, but to me, it represents that it represents a comfort level with the underlying foundational technology that is really kind of striking, and
I don't know. I find it really hard to believe that they're not working with OpenAI and Anthropic and all the other big guys. I mean, they are not experts in this, and I don't think they need anybody to tell them that they're not experts. And so I think I would be really shocked to learn that they were doing this on their own, truly. And there's just no way.
well, yeah. So you would expect. There's a lot that's unclear about the piece, right? And like I noted the phrase open source intelligence, which I think was curious, like what data is being fed into it, how is it being done? Yeah, you might be right, Emily. Ankush, you had another comment?
Yeah. You see, when we say they're building, I think we should not be thinking like they are doing everything from scratch. You take an example of, say, Java. So most used in enterprises. And when we say, hey, this company has created this platform, and we think, hey, how could they create the platform? Did they create the programming language? Did they create the system programming language? Did they create even the computer on which they created the application? See, few things are given now, right? So even there are many things which are already open source. When we take the open source and you create something new on that open source, so that commercially and legally, so that becomes the property of the company, right, or agency who's trying to create. I think it's more of that. Instead of we thinking, hey, they are reinventing the wheel, probably not. So they are just taking the wheel, which probably is free, and they are building on top of it, and they claim it's probably their technology, and they're right in all aspects.
Yeah, I mean, at minimum, they're using the foundation models that people are putting out there that are open source, I'm sure.
I
Or
think
they have
so.
more sophisticated versions of those foundation models. Maybe they've built upon them to make them more customized and be fit for purpose.
Or maybe they can use multiple foundation model based on different scenarios.
Yeah,
And,
well,
and,
y'all are
and
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and hopefully that is what they're doing. I mean, yeah, well said. And that's a good place to leave that. And certainly we'll be following on this show whatever else our government decides to do or not do with the technology. I'm going to shift gears to Amazon. You know, I think it's important to cover, as captivating as ChatGPT is and as much mind share as it commands right now. You know, the fact is that we're seeing groundswells of different activity bubbling up. And the one that I've focused on the last couple of weeks is the Alexa ecosystem. And I want to do it today as well. I'm going to read this article headline from Ars Technica. Amazon wants to charge a subscription fee for Alexa eventually. So really interesting article. And I'm going to go in the reverse order as we close this out. And Ankush, I'll start with you and then Emily, come to you. Ankush, with the Alexa ecosystem, we've noted that far from dead, it's been sitting there kind of lurking, right? It's been sitting there studying what is happening with ChatGPT and figuring out what Alexa 2.0 is going to be and is going to look like and do. And we've seen some of that with this recent Alexa event, where there's a video that was part of that demo, or part of that event that they did, where this woman walks all around her house and she's in this constant conversation with Alexa. And it's really next level from what you associated with Alexa, you know, prior. And so, but this is interesting in that Amazon perhaps signaling a different mindset for the assistant. So my question for you is, what stood out from this? You know, how does this news strike you, that Alexa is thinking about a premium version of itself or charging for access?
I think if the first reaction is trying to keep up with the competition, uh, right? But there were a lot of apprehensions, rumors. You know, the Google search would be killed. I never believed in that, and that's never going to happen. Because see, it's easy to sometimes build a technology, then shifting the consumers to specific new app, right? So some consumers that they don't want to change for maybe a small delta, unless it's really new thing, right? So now the Google is a synonym to search, and now ChatGPT is a synonym to generative AI, right? And I'm saying that maybe say we would also be launching our Indian version of Gen AI, but that's for a specific subset, right? For the reasons which I kind of mentioned earlier. But yeah, so it would be, I think, difficult to maybe to match up if unless it's totally new additions, new, or say, hey, maybe for current information, for news, this is it. Maybe you can ask any question about songs. Yeah, I use Alexa for songs. Now, if it's maybe it should be niche, it should be sector specific, maybe to build maybe health, or maybe it should be a sector specific, more accurate, more deep understanding, because ChatGPT, we don't get accurate information, right? Even, neither they claim that. So they still have data until September 2021. But if for consumers, if some other company is coming up with a generative AI or with detailed, deep, and current information, which probably other companies don't have, maybe people would understand that and shift. Otherwise, I see it's difficult unless you really come up with significant change for consumers. And subscription amount, I'm not sure the consumers are ready. But yeah, so I think maybe it would be the freemium model, which even ChatGPT and other companies have. unless it's totally, as I said, maybe I'm not sure how successful Alexa is. I was following earlier, not much now. But yeah, if you add value and consumers are ready to pay for the value they get or the problems they solve with that.
Well, you raise a couple of interesting questions, but the one I'll comment on is, was Alexa successful or not? I'm actually thinking about writing a longer piece on this because there's such divergent views. So people will look at, and the media here in the United States, I pointed this out on the show in previous episodes, where the media here in the United States loves to talk about how Alexa was a failure. And what they'll do is they'll point to this $10 billion loss figure, which is a bit misleading. It was definitely a loss leader for the company. Don't get me wrong, but the 10 billion figure that gets cited is inaccurate for several reasons. It would take longer to explain. But for something so unsuccessful, I sure see it in a lot of people's houses, right? And when I say the words, there's never any ambiguity on what I mean. Like every single person knows what I'm talking about. So for a failure, by the way, it also led to paved the way for ChatGPT and everything else that's going on right now. So for a failure, it sure did some unfailure-like things. So it's an interesting conversation there, but I agree with your larger point that it's going to be difficult. There's got to be a very specific strategy with it, but so that's well taken. Emily, I'm going to give you the last word on this. I want to just hear your thoughts on how this news struck you, what stood out to you maybe from the article, and do you think that this is a viable approach for Amazon to, do you think that it's shooting themselves in the foot for them to start charging, or do you think that it will make people look at the product differently and maybe view it with a higher value, that they're like valuing it higher and charging?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot to speak to. I would agree with you that Alexa has not been a failure. They were first to market. They certainly have the market share. And like you, I can't go to a friend's house without seeing one in their home. And it's certainly integrated into my everyday life. I walk into my bedroom and I say, Alexa, turn on the master lights. I say, Alexa, open the master windows. And it does all those things for me. My whole home is automated because of Alexa, right? Which is perfect because I have a 14-month-old baby. And when I have my hands full, I can tell her to do these things. And everything is voice command. Of course, my first reaction to this was great. Now they can pump more money into this machine to improve the algorithms, because unlike you, Bradley, I still have a lot of difficulty with Alexa understanding my voice. I'll say Bruce Springsteen and she'll put on Bruce something else, and so it's still very frustrating to me that this technology has been around for so long now and it's still not gotten better in recognizing my voice. At least that's been my personal experience. My concern, so neither here nor there, my concern with them starting to charge is leaving people behind. Maybe not everybody can afford this. And so I worry about the fact that their usership might go down, the amount of data that they need then will also go down, and then the quality of the product may not be there. And it may not matter how much money they pump into it if their user base isn't still there. So I worry about the democratization of this technology and the fact that we may be putting up barriers for folks who can't then afford this. And then we're only, these products can only serve those that are well off. So I'm kind of go through, that's where my head is at. It's not necessarily thinking about, is this going to hurt Amazon's bottom line or the technology itself? It's about how can we make sure that we can still allow this technology to be available to most of the modern world, right? So that's what I'm most concerned about, is the fact that usership might go down, which then, the product is not available to as many people to be able to donate the data to then improve the product.
I love that. So in that, perhaps you're aware, or maybe you aren't, but right when Alexa came out back in 2015, Alexa came out toward the end of 2014, but for most people, generally speaking, it's a 2015 to 2016 timeframe. And one of the initial concerns from that point forward was equity issues for children in, in an educational context, because as a lot of people know, Amazon in the United States has a more affluent and educated subscriber base than other types of businesses, and consequently those were the people that had Alexa in their home, especially to begin with, are more affluent and educated people. So as the media correctly pointed out back, this is not sort of 2017, 2018, hey, look, we got kids being left behind here who don't have access to Alexa. It's only these rich kids that have Alexa in the home. And that was accurate. And it's interesting to hear you point out the possibility of that happening again. That's super interesting. I think it's just a great sort of interesting note to leave the show on, and just great comments all the way around from both of y'all. Appreciate both of y'all taking the time to share your expertise, your experience with not just me, but the audience as well. It's greatly appreciated.
Thanks for having us, Bradley.
You got it.
Thank you, Bradley. Learned a lot. Thanks, Bradley. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it. Appreciate both of y'all. So for This Week in Voice, Season 9, Episode 4, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, until next time.